Above the jungles of South America towers the original Jurassic Park, a preserve of prehistoric castaways marooned on an island in the clouds. Here, legend says, the extinct still survive. This is the story of 3 expeditions. The first men to scale the mountain, the fictional adventure they inspired, and a modern team that breaks new ground.
So much of the top of Roraima is still totally uncharted, undiscovered.
They'll meet the dangerous.
It is the most feared animal in the jungle.
The deadly.
If it doesn't kill you, you usually have to amputate.
And the unknown.
I've seen tarantulas all over the world, but I've never seen this one before.
They'll hunt for living fossils.
Dinosaurs really are here. I've never seen anything like this.
And find life out of this world. It takes time to reach the land that time forgot. It soars a mile above the jungle. It's ringed by an obstacle course, and it's not made for climbing. An early explorer said you couldn't get there, except by balloon. Roraima lies on the remote borders of Venezuela, Guyana, and Brazil. 4 centuries after Columbus, it remained a mystery.
No one had ever been to the top, not white men, nor the local Indians. They were afraid of it. They had all kinds of strange legends and stories about what kind of creatures might be up there, including a strange, violent race of ape men and flying pterodactyls. What was the mystery of Roraima?
A British newspaper pleaded, "Will no one explore Roraima?" In 1884, the Royal Geographic Society tapped 2 British officials in Guyana to solve the mystery. Amateur botanists Everett M. Thurn and surveyor Harry Perkins. They discovered an evolutionary cul-de-sac where life had gone its own way. Their story captivated a man who loved mysteries, the creator of Sherlock Holmes.
Conan Doyle devoured the tales, the strange tales that were coming back from explorers in the late 19th century. Tales not only of the explorers, but of the Indians and the indigenous peoples. We're telling them of ape men that lived deep in the jungle in caves. We're telling them of giant snakes 60 and 100 feet long. We're telling them of giant footprints in the swamps, glimpses of dinosaur-like creatures, flying reptiles. And he just made that little leap of imagination. Okay, let's say they're true.
Everybody run!
The result was a page-turner, The Lost World, the first novel about dinosaurs. It inspired King Kong and Jurassic Park. But the real freaks of nature still lay in the Amazon. To this day, parts of Roraima remain unexplored, and secrets wait to be unlocked. In the jungles of Venezuela, an unprecedented expedition sets out to reconcile legend and science. The team would make Hollywood proud. A snake expert, a tarantula authority, a veteran caver, a cryptozoologist, a biologist who studies life on other planets, and their guide.
For me, it's amazing that As we speak, we are still finding new species and discovering and revealing new mysteries. Even with all our technology, there's so many things to learn.
Which way, one tell us?
Ahead, a cross-section of terrain. Then, the lost world of Roraima. On the way, they'll meet giants, killers, and creeps. Their journey will start in the marshlands of northwestern Venezuela, more than 400 miles from Roraima. They're looking for primitive lost world creatures. Tarantula expert Rick West is hot on the trail.
Oh, look. This is a centipede for sure. I don't know what kind yet. Oh, boy, it's a monster. Oh, holy smoke. Oh, that's a big one. That has got to be, if it's what I think it is, I think that is the world's largest centipede.
Older than the dinosaurs, this foot-long killer once grew 8 feet long. It has 42 legs, 2 sharp pincers, and venom toxic enough to kill mice, frogs, even tarantulas. The legs prick like needles, but Rick holds tight to the business end. The poison has stopped people
Look at that.
dead in their tracks.
These get up to 14 inches in length, and they've got a modified set of claws right there that are like fangs, and the bite is extremely painful. And the people are terrified. Locally, they're absolutely terrified of these things. If they see them, they run in the opposite direction. It's gross.
From insects to reptiles. Biologist Seth Heald runs an outdoor adventure company in Arizona. He's an expert on snakes.
As a kid, I would spend every single day out in the swamps in maritime Canada, just searching for garter snakes, turtles, salamanders, anything I could get my hands on. For me, the trek to Roraima is a dream come true.
Like the first explorers, the snake handler hopes to find species no one has ever seen.
Dean, Rick, come here.
It's a tree boa.
Isn't that something? Look at it.
Wow. I've never seen one before. These are really rare.
That blends right in.
You could hardly sing.
Yeah, do you want me to hold that?
No, I think we got him here. We just gotta wait for his tail to release, which I think I can get him to do.
Whoa.
The boa is aggressive. Its bite isn't lethal, but it's painful. It uses 2-inch fangs to seize its favorite prey. It crushes the bird, then swallows it head first, so it goes down smooth.
That's full grown.
That's full grown. They don't get much bigger than this.
Oh, oh.
We'll let him back off. When he's coiled like that, you want to be careful, because that's when they can strike a long ways.
It's rare, but not new. Yet new life has been reported on Roraima, deep within a cave. The report lured cavers Hazel Barton and Peter SPROUSE to the expedition.
And I'm on rappel. While rappelling, I keep my feet about half a meter apart.
They practice on a bridge built in the middle of the jungle by the architect of the Eiffel Tower.
Hand down here. There's only 2 cavers along, Hazel and I. As soon as we get to the cave and the rest of the expedition turns us loose, we'll be in our own environment. For example, go ahead and rappel a little bit, and I'm going to stop you.
Peter SPROUSE has spent as much time underground as above.
There are risky places, there's no doubt about that. I've been caving for 35 years, and I'm still here, presumably from being somewhat careful. I've taken a few falls, broken a few bones. Had a few friends who were a little bit less lucky than that, who are no longer with us.
Dr. HAZEL Barton is one of the world's leading cave biologists, but the Lost World is a new frontier.
The idea of coming to Venezuela and reading the Lost World book, it seemed like something that was kind of a fantasy, you know, it would never be true. You know, it's a reality now, is that we will be going to the top and we will actually see these caves and see the formations that are in there.
We've got our upper cinder. We've got our cedar cinder, which is called a crawl. We've got our stalk cinder. I've done a lot of hunting for new species in caves over my lifetime and have found quite a few new species.
You know, the caves could be the key to finding really ancient life on Earth. Can't wait to see what's in there. Good, you're a natural. We know there are some animals that are unique to the tepuis, so the hope is that we'll find some microorganisms that have never previously been described. New species of life.
In marsh and jungle, life has evolved much as it has in similar habitats. But the farther they travel, the stranger the life. Roraima is one of the oldest places on Earth. Some rock formations are over 3.5 billion years old, more than half the age of the planet. The plateau is the wreckage from a cataclysmic divorce. 120 million years ago, Africa and South America were part of a single continent called Gondwana. When they split, Roraima sprang up from the ocean floor. An island a mile high, rising from the jungle. Explorer Everin M. Thurn suspected it was a prehistoric time capsule.
On the supposition that the summit is really inaccessible to all unwinged animals, very possibly animal forms of a primitive type exist which have undergone no modification since the plane was first isolated in mid-air.
Thurn was braced for anything.
After 3 days, we reach a shallow river, and our progress improves dramatically.
Miss Clooney, do you think there are piranha in these waters?
Piranha aren't dangerous. Well, that's a myth. It's the snakes you have to watch.
It's not very impressive.
Like characters in The Lost World, the expedition continues their hunt for strange creatures in Venezuela's marshes. The real Lost World of Roraima is still 400 miles away. But one explorer believes its legends are close by. Dean Harrison is a cryptozoologist, a specialist in animals undocumented by science.
With a bit of luck, we'll be able to get the images and prove for once these creatures exist. You can't dismiss all the sightings of dinosaurs, pterodactyls, sauropods that has gone on over the years.
I want you to meet a couple of
No one knows Lost World legends like the locals.
Hola.
¿Cómo estás?
They were born here. Actually, Alejandro was born
Guide
here.
Juan Carlos interviews a man who met a monster.
Oh, he's saying that when he was a child, he was on a bus with his father on the main road, and the bus had to stop because there was a huge snake on the road. When they got off,
It was 3 to 4 feet thick and came up to a man's hip.
The witnesses here seen a snake, say this big.
Pareciera más o menos algo como el cuento de la carretera.
Parecía como el cuento de la carretera, ¿eh?
He says it's, yeah, it's exactly what they saw with his father on the road.
In the early 1900s, British explorer Percy Fawcett claimed to meet such a monster. He said his boat was attacked by an anaconda, 63 feet long.
That's incredible. Look at that. Imagine coming across something as big as that.
Yeah.
That is huge.
Snake.
My interest in this area has been stemmed by the sightings of large and bizarre creatures which have been seen in explorers' journals over the years, particularly the 18th and 19th century.
In the 19th century, Victorian explorers roamed the planet. They found strange worlds and stranger beasts. Jungle cats, mountain gorillas, pygmy hippos, Komodo dragons, each like a myth come true. Then, the strangest beasts of all.
In the forests around London, dinosaur bones were being found for the first time, and this is before Darwin and evolution. Monsters had walked the earth right here in our little villages.
In 1854, London opened the world's first dinosaur theme park. For the first time, modern man gazed on primeval giants. Imaginations ran wild. Perhaps in the untrod Amazon, the giants lived on. The globe-trotting Percy Fawcett even claimed he saw one. His tales helped inspire Conan Doyle's Lost World.
By 1912, the dinosaurs were old friends to the public, but only from statues and paintings. Doyle wanted to ask the question, what would it really be like to meet a dinosaur in the flesh? How terrifying, how strange, how magnificent an experience would that be?
In the Amazon, contemporaries of the dinosaurs survive. The spectacled caiman is 65 million years old. It can grow 8 feet long and weigh 500 pounds. It has a 1,500-pound bite. It eats fish, birds, turtles, and mammals.
Look at this over here.
What
Big
is that?
debris pile. That looks like what the caimans and the crocodiles make to lay their eggs in, huh?
Shouldn't there be one hanging around here, though?
Probably, actually.
If the mother's lurking, handling eggs is touchy.
Rough, almost like sandpaper.
That's hatched,
Hard,
isn't it?
Is it a caiman or not? It's hard like a bird's egg.
Here's another one that's hatched.
In late summer, caimans lay eggs in damp mounds. After 90 days, they hatch. Youngsters feed on small prey under adult supervision. Nighttime is the best time to find a caiman.
Nice.
Oh, beauty.
Sweet.
Got her? Don't let her bite.
This juvenile is less than 2 months old,
Look at that, even the babies
but it can still take off a finger.
Look at that.
Jeez.
Is that the larger one?
I don't know. No, let's just let her go. Let's call it a night.
Downstream, Dean sets a trap to catch a lost world legend on camera.
If you look over here, you can see a large entry point where something massive has been coming in and out of the water. What is it? I'm not sure. Large anaconda, crocodile, don't know. But hopefully, I'll find out. I plan to put the bait here, camera over here. And in the morning, with a bit of luck, we'll have some footage.
14 hours later, Dean checks his camera trap.
Okay, it looks like the bait's gone. Have to be careful standing over here because the crocodile could launch out of here at any time. There's a few prints around, various different types, so that's a good thing. And let's see what we've got. The goal here is to get some footage of the giant anacondas and crocodiles we've heard so much about in the explorers' journals.
Caught on film, a rare species of fox.
Approximately 35 to 40 photos.
Not a giant reptile that would explain dinosaur sightings.
I really believe in these waters behind me hold the secrets to the native legends.
Maybe so. In these waters lurks a primeval monster, one of the world's largest crocodiles. It grows up to 23 feet long and weighs as much as a small car. Early explorers describe running a gauntlet of hundreds of crocs. In the 1930s, they were slaughtered for their hides. Today, fewer than 1,500 survive. Before continuing toward Roraima, one last search for a giant snake. Villagers spotted one in this swamp. Anacondas seize prey in fangs like fishhooks, then squeeze it to death. The fangs face backward to make escape hard, as discovered by a Brazilian farmer who tried to move one. Bites aren't poisonous, but can be infectious. The snake's mouth is a cesspool of germs. Anacondas are the world's biggest snakes, over 25 feet long and more than 500 pounds. But they hide well.
Okay guys, this is the best spot to find the anaconda. We're gonna wade in following these tracks and see if we're lucky.
What size of anaconda would we expect to find in here?
Anything between 2 and 8 meters.
Well, that's big.
Yeah, let's catch one.
Let's go. What we're looking for is soft bottom, and when you poke the snake, actually you feel a lateral movement. Once you feel it, you'll know it's an anaconda. And you have to watch out for the head, because it's a nasty bite.
So aggressive?
It could be very aggressive. Okay, I think there's one. Can you see it?
Yeah, right there.
It's really thick. You have to be careful and watch out for the head.
Yeah, where is the head then? Could be over there, so be careful.
Look how the scales are laying. I think
Okay, the head is this way.
Well, we don't know how long it is either, do we?
The body's still going over there, and it's moving the weeds over here.
Okay, it's moving.
Oh, there it is. There's the head.
Yep. It's a big one. Oh. Okay, I need you to distract her from one side. And I'll try to sneak up from behind. You don't want to step on the tail. Okay, we're out. See, by the size, it looks like a female. Males don't grow this big. And it's pretty heavy and thick, actually. So probably it just ate something, or look at that. Wow. Yeah, very, very powerful. Full of muscle.
Can you see the teeth on her there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my. How long do you think it is?
Open them out. Pull her out a bit.
Stretch it out.
Oh, let's say about 17, 18 feet.
From its bulk, the snake may have just eaten one of its favorite meals. The world's largest rodent, the capybara. The capybara eats aquatic plants, grows up to 150 pounds, and lives in groups up to 100. It's such a local staple, the Catholic Church has classified it as a fish, so it can be eaten over Lent. Now protected, the population has rebounded to 100,000 in Venezuela alone.
For an aquatic snake, it looks like she's getting a little stressed out of water. We should put her back. Good idea.
Okay, let's go.
Ready?
All together.
That's a heavy snake.
Sure is.
After 2 days in Venezuela's northern wetlands, the team heads for a jungle camp to the southeast, gateway to the lost world. Dead ahead, hard proof of a lost world myth. In Conan Doyle's fictional Lost World, an expedition bound for a mystical mountain reaches the frontier of civilization.
The mission station, which is our present destination, will provide the last chance to savor the comforts of the civilized world. And beyond that lies the hardships and the terrors of the unknown.
The Roraima expedition has reached a camp in the Amazon, along Venezuela's Cuyuni River, the edge of civilization.
And once we're left at the Gran Sabana area, we'll be looking at 25 kilometers of really extreme hiking.
It's the terrain of a creature from Conan Doyle's Lost World.
There have been a lot of reported sightings of the DD, or ape man, which obviously includes Deloy's ape.
In 1920, while searching for oil, Swiss geologist Francois Deloys claimed he was attacked by a pair of apes nearly 5 feet tall. He shot one with his rifle, then his camera. He left the body in the jungle. All that survives is his controversial photo of what looks like a large ape, but some say it's a trick shot of an average-sized spider monkey. Recently in Brazil, cavers found the skull of an ancient spider monkey, twice the size of its modern descendants. Did Deloys shoot a prehistoric holdout?
The jungle out here is that thick that anything can survive for its entire existence and never be discovered by man.
Dean is he's very serious about what he does. Science is not a belief system. You don't ask people to believe something, you show them evidence, and then they either accept it or reject it.
We actually shot this creature on the bank and brought it up. It was a female. I measured it out to be 5 feet.
Explorers Thurn and Perkins sought their own evidence. Natives brought local specimens and outlandish stories.
Any extraordinary or inaccessible rock is always said to be inhabited by monstrous animals. On Roraima, the Indians say there are huge white jaguars, huge white eagles, and other such beasts. To this class probably belongs the Didis, being in shape something between men and monkeys.
They were prepared and they hoped to find anything, everything, strange creatures. They wondered whether some of the great myths were true and whether some of these animals actually lived.
Seth is on firmer ground. He follows rodent trails in search of a creature no one disputes.
The locals told me this gallery forest is full of rattlesnakes, and I'd love to find one. Unfortunately, it's also full of Bushmaster, the largest viper in the world, and I hope I actually don't run into one of those.
He's just in time for an ambush.
Oh, you got him. As you just saw, the rattlesnake just envenomated this little wood rat, and the wood rat's almost dead already, which shows you just how toxic this venom is. But pretty soon he'll be able to track this mouse down, even in a forest like this with hundreds of scents around, including the scent of other mice. This snake will be able to track right directly to the mouse by its own signature scent. When he envenomated it, no one knows how they do it. Now, they'll always swallow them head first because the hair will lay down and allow them to swallow them whole. Now you see how he keeps jerking back and forth. He's got to loosen his jaw. Unlike humans, the jaw doesn't connect to the skull.
This area has been cleared by...
Rick and Hazel search for another venomous killer.
Plant crops like this. Look at this. Look at that.
What's that?
Here's one right here. Just mentioning the tree tarantula. This one lives in trees. You see anything up inside?
Oh, I see some really big hairy legs, yes.
All right. Do you want to get her out?
You can do that. I'm more than happy to let you try.
They find a tarantula with nearly half-inch fangs, named for its pink feet. Rojo pata.
Can you see the silk that she's producing?
Oh, yeah, it's so fine. I mean, it's like much thinner than a hair. It's amazing. She's beautiful.
And that's about full grown. That's a female pink
feet.
toes.
I have pink shoes, so I have empathy for this animal.
There she goes.
There she is.
Well, let's go find more.
Okay, cool. Are there any snakes?
Before continuing south, they'll spend one more day searching for the roots of lost world legend. Roraima still lies 150 miles away. The next leg of their journey takes them deeper into the Venezuelan rainforest. In Conan Doyle's novel, the river is the entrance to the lost world.
100 miles upstream from the mission, we find the secret tributary along which Professor Challenger returned on his previous journey. His private gate into the unknown, as he called it. The drums that had worried us earlier have started again, much closer now. Their menace is reflected on the faces of our Indian bearers. We are being watched.
I think I'm really looking forward to seeing the landscape. From the photos I've seen, it's about as alien in a world as you can possibly get. So I'll never be able to go to Mars, but this might be the closest I get.
Heading deeper into the Amazon, toward the mystical mountains of the lost world, the expedition enters hazardous currents, the realm of the water dragon. After 5 days, the Lost World team glimpses a sight found nowhere but here. The tabletop plateaus the Pomone Indians called tepuis, the houses of God.
Walls. Mira, es el grupo. Vamos a estar unos 10 días juntos.
Bienvenido.
Gracias. There's a mountain that in their Pomone language, it means ape. So we're gonna find some of the elders to talk about that mountain and why it's called like that.
Any sort of information that'll be helpful.
Yes.
Before the sun goes down, Seth looks for local varieties of his favorite animal.
Oh, wow. It's Verdelands. You need to be really careful here. Of all the snakebite fatalities in South America, this one causes the vast majority. If it doesn't kill you, the limb that it bites turns into just a black soup of necrotic and dead tissue. Usually have to amputate. Much better camouflage, and unlike a rattlesnake, doesn't have a rattle to warn you, sits along the trails and just nails people. So you have to be very, very cautious around this snake. With that camouflage, you could step on it without even knowing. It's a little guy, but he packs a serious punch. 50 milligrams is the fatal dose. Most of them have about 105. Super painful. I'm gonna leave this one alone.
Before the team crosses sacred land, the Pomone initiate them with a local beverage.
You're gonna love it.
Manioc root blended with human saliva. Their fictional counterparts endured their own ritual.
Ah. Thank you very much. You love all this attention, don't you?
Contact with the outside world ravaged Pomone culture, but not their legends.
About the hairy ape man. Are there any legends or stories or sightings, reports from here?
In the Pomone legends called PINKTOE. They believe that they would hunt down humans and they would take them away.
So there is fear about this creature.
Yes.
The image of a wild, hairy man running around the woods is an image in many cultures around the world. This is before Darwin, before evolution. Thousands of years ago, people believed in the wild man of the woods.
The brow ridges, the line of the jaw.
The Indians in South America had legends of deities, of half men, half apes, exactly the kind that Conan Doyle writes about.
Quite unique. Yes, I should name them Lycanthropus challengerus.
Ape men aren't the only beasts that haunt their legends. Drownings and capsizings are blamed on a water dragon called Ratto. Yet the Pomone suggests it's no myth.
The sightings in the village, in the lagoon, are basically of a giant snake. A couple of years ago, there was a couple of tourists walking along the sandy banks of the Canaima Lagoon, and one of them was taken by, in this case, was a snake, and pulled into the water.
Such are bedtime stories in Lost World country. Above the village looms Ayantapui, sister mountain to Roraima. It's said to harbor demons, and it beckons the team. Deep within lies the source of the mountain's power. A tiny cleft called the Devil's Canyon. The current is so strong, it can sweep you away. Death swims here. This tree anteater may have slipped on the rocks above. Or did the demons claim another victim? The Tamandua is unique to South America. It uses its prehensile tail to move through the trees, searching for ants. Spurred by the campfire tales, Dean investigates Canaima Lagoon. Realm of a water dragon, or just local color? Nearby, in 1951, a European reported a creature like a plesiosaur.
I'm hoping to get behind this waterfall here and have a look around. I know it's dangerous, people have lost their lives there before, but the rattle and the spirit guides are supposed to reside behind the waterfalls or at the bottom, so we're going to go and have a look.
Dean surmises the fate of those who entered Rato's domain. Not sucked under by a dragon, but the undertow. Or is there a third explanation?
I think Fawcett, he was told of anacondas reaching 130 feet. We'd had reports in the area of some of the anacondas being up to 37, 40 feet. So there's certainly some big ones out there.
Now, their ordeal begins. A long, hot trek to the base of Roraima, and danger underfoot all the way.
He wants to know which direction you're headed.
About 10 days due north of here.
Something Kietiata.
Puri. Something wrong?
It's an area the Indians avoid. They say there are bad spirits there.
In the real Lost World, evil takes many forms.
Hey, Carlos. Hi, Dean. How are you? Good to see you. I want you to meet some friends from the village. They're very old.
Before the journey toward Roraima resumes, Dean consults the village's oldest shaman about predators of ancient legend.
Can you ask them if they've seen anything like this one?
Algo como esto.
He gets more than he bargained for.
Guanori.
Guanori, lo que llaman en Pemón.
The name of this creature, it's Guanori.
Guanori?
Guanori, and it would eat the humans.
So they come off the top of Roraima and sweep down.
So venía de Roraima y bajaba y eat the villagers down below.
Wow. This is exactly as the ancient explorers wrote in their journals. Exactly what they were writing. Exactly the same stories as the Indians told the explorers as they passed through this area. So this is so exciting.
Like the early explorers, the team needs help reaching Roraima. Each villager shoulders more than 60 pounds. It's 2 days to the base of Roraima, an up and down slog under a blistering sun.
You didn't hear that?
I didn't hear that, actually.
They follow a network of Pamon Indian trails, worn by centuries of travel.
What do you say when you speak and you hear it in a different place?
As the plateau looms larger, cave formations appear. Hazel and Peter plan to explore caves recently discovered and verify reports of life never before seen.
The most exciting thing is going to be when you get on top, getting in the caves. These could be the most ancient caves on Earth, so it's going to be fascinating. The microbes that lived in there, I mean, really could have been doing what they're doing now 60 million years ago, 65 million years ago when the dinosaurs were still around.
Whatever you want to do. Just keep it clean. Yeah, I can.
On the path to Roraima, the loads are heavy, but the trail is clear. The first explorers weren't so lucky. A century ago, this was dense jungle. Thurn and Perkins had to hack their way through yard by yard.
On the fourth morning of our journey, life seemed to me as gloomy as it could be. The difficulties which lay before us seemed insurmountable. Then, suddenly, the forest ended. By a lucky chance, the mountain was free from cloud.
Thurn wasn't out of the woods yet. Ahead, a gauntlet of venom, and the notorious bullet ant with a sting like a gunshot.
This is the famous bullet ant, locally called Hormiga 24. It is probably the most feared animal in the jungle. When you walk towards them, they actually look around. They feed on other insects. They're huge. It is terribly painful. One sting by the abdomen can give 24 hours of extreme pain. It's like a burning sensation, like a cigarette being lit on your skin.
At midday, a pocket forest offers relief from 100-degree heat.
I think I've lost 5 pounds since the village, and we're only on the lower foothills of Roraima.
Starting to get a couple of blisters on the heel, but they'll dry out over the next 10 minutes or so.
I've been at this for half an hour now, and I'm getting soaked, and I'm getting a little discouraged because, oh, look at this. Look at this. This is a huge burrow right here. This is one of the world's largest tarantulas. I can tell by the size of that abdomen. Look at that.
Gosh, comes.
This is Theraphosa apophysis. And this is a beautiful, beautiful spider. This is a very ancient tarantula spider. They've been on this planet about 23 million years. Oh, man. Whew. That's worth it. That was worth the gap through the jungle. Keep her in sight. They have 2 enormous fangs that are about 3/4 of an inch long. I'm not worried about a bite because they're generally pretty good if you don't molest them and grab them and hurt them.
Tarantulas are so old, they're the cavemen of spiders. No fancy webs for them, just ambush. It stabs prey, then injects venom. To deter intruders while it dines, it lays down a silk fence. Once it sucks out the juices, all that's left is a dry shell.
That's a girl. That is a nice big tarantula. There we go. There we go.
Time to move on. Roraima is so high, it traps clouds drifting off the Atlantic. Each year, they dump 140 inches of rain. The Pomoan believe that when white men approach, spirits cloak the mountain. Sensing rain, leafcutter ants take cover. Their harvest will grow mold to feed the colony. At last, rest. briefly.
Tomorrow and the next day are going to be the toughest out of the 3-day hike. It's going to be hard on blisters if you have them.
A natural remedy for aching muscles. Night brings trouble. A front moves in. It can turn trails into torrents and stop the team in their tracks. Their fate now lies with the spirits of the mountain. After a nighttime deluge, hope dawns. But the expedition is not in a sunny mood.
I think everyone's relatively tired this morning, and we have to go up this trail, down to another river, and then all the way up to the base of the cliff. And I think that there'll be some people on the team that are struggling to make it the whole way.
It was a little rough, but I'm doing all right. Every muscle in my body is screaming in pain, but and we're still not even there. We're in the lower foothills.
Look at all this stuff. This is ludicrous. How far can we expect to go without bearers?
As far as we have to.
Igneous, what would it be?
The team must cover 10 miles today, but 2 members are already off on the wrong foot.
So we're sitting there with the shaman, and I happened to have this toy pterodactyl, and I handed it to him and said, "What do you know about these?" He's talking about how the pterodactyls would fly down off the peak of Roraima and swoop down and pick up their children and take back up there and eat them.
Well, there weren't any pterodactyls. I guess that's my point, you know? I mean, it's like...
Hazel needs evidence, not
We're
anecdotes.
continually shifting.
And it's been written about since the 15th century about the pterodactyls because they actually drew the pictures of them.
Seth offers an explanation.
Now, in the Llanos, we were able to see large storks that, as the sun was going down, looked identical to a pterodactyl when they were silhouetted against the bright sky.
A pterosaur! It's a pterosaur!
What have you done with our dinner?
A real live pterosaur has just swooped off with our dinner, and you bring me a moth!
Go!
Slacker.
The team resumes the march to Roraima with more than their breakfast to chew on. Up the trail, the debate over lost world fact versus fiction will only get hotter. In the path of the snake hunter, a rare find. The Roraima rattlesnake, found nowhere else.
Endemic species of the area. Woo! Ciao.
He's grumpy.
Oh, wow. That's what we were hoping to see.
Is that a Roraima species?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I don't know of any known photos. You can look on the internet.
Everywhere to find a photo of one. See the tongue going up?
I don't know.
Ooh, and very fast.
Very feisty. If the tongue just comes out like this, they're just testing the air and smelling for prey. However, if the tongue comes out and she lays it back like this, that means that she's very upset and to watch out because she's about to strike.
They move it out of striking distance and move on. Two miles down the trail, a link to the first Roraima expedition. The remains of a village where Thurn and Perkins passed.
The strangeness of Roraima seems to have made deep impressions on the minds of the Indians and filled their thoughts with folklore to an unusual extent. we encountered 2 of their villages on our journey to the mountain.
The villages are gone. So are some species. Giant anteaters the size of German shepherds, and a distant cousin of the horse, the tapir.
Looks like a nice swimming hole down there.
Yeah, it looks beautiful. The water's quite clear. It doesn't even have much tannin in it.
Yeah.
A natural moat guards the lost world, the Kukunan River. It's shallow, but slippery and treacherous, an ankle-twisting obstacle course.
We made it!
Not even on the ramp, it's getting steep, huh?
The landscape changes.
Can't even talk.
Any step could bring discovery. Life strange to their eyes. How strange? The first explorers could only guess. At the base of the mountain, Thurn predicted what waited at the top. Primeval life, unchanged for millennia.
Whether the place be quite inaccessible to modifying influences or not, it is at least certain that not only the fauna, but also the flora must present features of great interest.
Botanists spend their lives seeking a single new plant. Here, Thurn would find 53. Near the base of Roraima, even the familiar becomes bizarre. Life wears basic black to blend in, and for other reasons.
It's a spiny lizard. You can see how dark it is, and normally this is almost a silver-colored lizard. And this is the first melanistic animal that we found on the hike up Roraima, which actually means that it has a lot of dark pigment. So this little animal, in order to digest its food, it has to elevate its body temperature to over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. The black pigment actually helps.
After hiking all day in 100-degree heat, relief. Tomorrow, it's all uphill.
It's about 2 feet shorter.
Only one way up, and it took half a century to find it.
This is absurd. We've walked nearly halfway round this plateau.
This mountain was considered to be unclimbable. And that's probably one of the things that appealed to a character like Thurn, to climb the unclimbable mountain, to dream the impossible dream. That was part of the fabric of the personality of these explorers.
Thurn and Perkins spent weeks searching for a path up Roraima. They searched in vain. Then, hidden by trees, the key.
We saw a ledge running diagonally from the bottom to the top of the opposite cliff of Roraima, which from where we were certainly seemed to offer a very practicable way of ascent.
What's the trek like along that ledge up there? I mean, it looks pretty narrow.
It is. It's only a couple of feet wide, and it could be very slippery with a 400-meter drop, so we have to be very careful on that part.
That forest is full of venomous snakes, venomous ants, venomous scorpions. I mean, there's a lot of things in there besides just slipping and puncturing yourself on some of the thorny undergrowth.
The watchword for tomorrow, watch your step. On both sides looms danger, vertigo or venom. After 2 days of hard hiking, the Lost World team reaches the base of Roraima. Trouble's brewing.
We're a little bit concerned about the weather because our barometer is saying that air pressure is going low, so it could mean a change in the weather pattern, which has been good so far.
This is the critical point in our trip as far as going up the mountain, and we're really hoping for good weather.
It rains so much on Roraima, natives call it the mother of all waters. The team calls it the cloud machine.
Ready to roll, packed, ready. Looking forward to the big adventure, the big trip. It's going to be a hard hike, but it's going to be worth it in the long run.
As clean as it can get.
Oh, really?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
2 centuries ago, this path was virgin turf.
Seldom, if ever, did we step on the real ground, but instead climbed hand and feet, all fully employed, over masses of vegetation dense enough to bear our weight.
These elevated root mats of roots are the ones that Im Thurn described in his descent, where they were never actually touching the ground. They were climbing all over this mess. Must have been really difficult without a trail. Certainly, you got to give a lot of respect to the early explorers of Roraima. 150 years ago, it was a completely different ballgame. Those were hard men. Those were true explorers and tough guys.
Danger lurks all around. Bullet ants below, tree snakes above.
You have to watch your ankles and watch your hands. Remember, there's arboreal vipers here.
Oh, great. Thanks.
Anybody sees one, let me know.
Forget snakes. Instead, a rare sight. This wasp needs a place to hatch offspring, and she's found it. A living cradle that will suffer a slow death.
This is a tarantula hawk wasp that has found a tree tarantula, has lured it out of its burrow, has stung it, paralyzed it, and it's dragging it to this abandoned burrow. And she'll take the tarantula inside the burrow, paralyzed, lay a single egg on it, cover the burrow up, and the larva that hatches from that egg will eat all the outer limbs of the spider, everything but the vital organs until last. So that spider will be alive and be slowly eaten. And this is the first time I've seen the whole event from start to finish. And this is very, very rare to catch this on film.
On the slopes of Roraima, rare life thrives. A 1,000 plants are found nowhere else.
Is this that Repetaceae?
Yes, it is.
So is this the one that's related to the African species?
Yep, Stegolepis.
Okay, Stegolepis.
And actually, it's one of the few edible plants
Oh, really?
on the Tepui, yeah. Would you like to try one?
Sure. What do you do?
It's the newborn leaf.
Okay.
Read that.
You just eat this bit?
That white part, yeah.
It tastes like artichoke heart.
After 5 hours, a glimpse of the summit, 2,000 feet up.
Awesome.
Time to refuel. Get some water.
I think it's gonna get rainy on us pretty soon.
I hope not. Is it kind of late?
Yeah. It might be almost dark before we get there.
The trail winds through a tunnel of branches. Inches away, a sheer cliff, dropping 800 feet.
That's where the fun's gonna start, huh?
Nice view of the Gran Sabana from here.
Yeah, you see where we came from.
See all the way back to the village, huh?
Yeah.
Fern and Perkins would have stood right on this very spot,
Oh, really?
overlooking the Gran Sabana and the old Pemon village, which is right down there on the hill. See there?
Yeah. We better get our clothes on, guys. This is starting to rain.
Yeah.
The rain's coming up. Somebody angered the rain gods.
Yeah, that's what they yelled out.
The final leg to the summit is not for the timid. A steep, 45-degree ramp. In Conan Doyle's novel, explorers reach the lost world over a log spanning a chasm, just like this one. The ramp is no cakewalk.
This is a steep incline to get around this huge monolith that's fallen off the escarpment. So now, after climbing this enormous straight up hike, we've got to go straight down, around it, and straight back up again.
Now, this is our last bit. It's very steep, though. So, you have to be careful with slippery rocks.
Rocks.
More feet. What is it, Ricardo?
Just yards away lies the summit and the unknown.
What the hell are those?
We found it, Leo. The lair of the pterosaurs. When we get back to London, Leo, remind me to invite the board of the Royal Society to eat their hats.
On Roraima waits a carnivore, far more bizarre. "9,000 feet above the Amazon, the Roraima expedition reaches their goal.
I think this is it.
The summit of the lost world.
Oh my God.
Like Dorothy opening the door to Oz, they step into another world.
Yeah.
A menagerie of gargoyles, carved over eons by wind and rain. Set amid gardens meticulously tended by an unseen hand. They're as stunned as the first explorers. Those men expected living legends, but reality was even better.
When Imthern got to the top of Roraima, he didn't find dinosaurs, he didn't find flying pterodactyls. He found a strange landscape of fantastically shaped rocks and terrain that was like nothing he'd ever seen before.
Then the step was taken, and we saw surely as strange a sight, regarded simply as a product of nature, as may be seen in this world.
He saw these shapes as people, as animals, as... At one point he says tortoises and teapots, everything. It was like Alice in Wonderland. And then there were these clouds and mists drifting in and out of everything. It was dangerous, too, because if you'd made a misstep and you were obscured by the mist, you could break your leg.
Even on a clear day, hazards abound. Mazes to lose your way, and crevasses to break your neck.
I finally made it, and this place is truly beautiful. I'm not a religious person, but you'd swear you'd climbed up into God's garden.
This is gonna be our home for the next couple of days.
Looks cozy.
We'll make it comfortable.
A lost world secret beckons. A subterranean network discovered 3 years ago by Czech cavers.
The Czech cavers reported that they've actually seen some very, very large and unusual formations that are all microbial in structure. So this could be profoundly important.
And some of them are right out at the cliff face, so we've got to creep up, see if we can see them without falling 400 meters to our deaths.
The Czechs penetrated more than 2.5 miles. How deep the cave goes, no one knows. Hazel and Peter will be the first scientists inside.
We're going to head in today and have a look around and see how the cave is formed, see if there's any interesting biology or microbiology in the cave.
What we're looking for is extremophiles, organisms that have adapted to extreme environments.
Oh my God!
So you can't get much more extreme than a starved cave on top of a starved tepui. So it'll be interesting to see what grows there. Theoretically, nothing should grow there. So this may give clues to life on other planets in our solar system.
The cave was named for this natural sculpture, crystal eyes, formed when quartz crystals gouged holes during one of the frequent flash floods.
One of the worries we had in this cave was flooding, where, you know, the valley that we're camping in, the whole area floods into this cave entrance. So we needed to really understand the cave environment. Caving can be quite dangerous, and you really do need to understand the cave environment that you're in. The ceiling peels off. It's very, very soft. And if you hit it with your head, big lumps fall down.
Hazel seeks new kinds of microscopic life. Clues, perhaps, to how life could form on other planets.
It's too weird.
And how it began here on Earth.
Theo, look at this. Look, it's an iguanodon. Nonsense, iguanodon went on 2 legs.
Oh, yes, that's right, just like a kangaroo.
Hey, Peter?
Have you got something over there?
Yeah, there's I was looking for the connection to Guacheros, and it's not up here.
2 miles underground, a long-ago visitor lost his way.
We've come across this reasonably articulated mammal skeleton. It appears to be a quadrimundi. This is a great example of how caves serve as fantastic time capsules. This animal could have come in here thousands of years ago, died right here, and its bones are still here intact.
Until this find, no one knew coatis even lived on Roraima. They inhabit the southern US and Latin America. As members of the raccoon family, they eat almost anything. A favorite coati snack is a rare species found only on Roraima.
She's biting the stick. Look at that. That
is a very angry tarantula. And I have to tell you, I've seen tarantulas all over the world, but I've never seen this one before.
After sniffing out a tarantula, coatis use their paws to deflect its poisonous fangs. A coati may have followed prey deep into the cave and never found its way out. While some seek life underground, others comb the surface. Most of Roraima's small creatures exist nowhere else on Earth.
So I've been looking all morning, and other than a few tarantulas and some centipedes, I haven't found anything at all. Wait. Yeah. Actually, I've been searching a lot for one of these. And it's the Roraima frog.
This is a full-grown adult. Where food is scarce, small is better. Older than the dinosaurs, its closest relatives live in Africa, a reminder of a time when two continents parted at Roraima.
It's very, very warm out today. I don't want it to get overheated, so I'm gonna let it go back into the water. And they don't look like much of a swimmer. They don't have very webbed feet, so I'm interested to see how he swims. Or maybe not swim at all. Seems to be just floating. There he goes.
After surfacing, Hazel tracks another adaptation to the lost world, a vegetable that eats meat.
The ecosystem on Roraima is unique, is extremely starved. There's no soil here, it's all rock. So the plants that live here can't get their nutrients in a regular way from the soil. So they've actually adapted to eat insects.
Roraima has two types of meat eaters. Pitcher plants tempt prey with sweet nectar. Downward angled hairs trap it for digestion. The sundew is coated with sticky nectar that snares and consumes passersby. On Roraima, men found carnivores after all.
Thurn, he brought back 53 species of plants that were never discovered before. He really made his mark as a naturalist, as an explorer. But in the public mind, it was no big deal because he didn't find dinosaurs on the top of Roraima, and Conan Doyle did. The Lost World can be seen as a parable by Conan Doyle, that we don't know what's around the next corner, that science doesn't know everything.
When you look at the whole concept of the lost world as portrayed in the novel, to think back what it was like when the dinosaurs had only really been recognized, and I think 100 years ago, it captured the imagination to think that maybe they could still be out there somewhere.
At every stage of our life, human existence, we always thought at that stage we're at, we knew it all.
No, I don't think we're saying that.
Yeah, well, I mean, but that's how it is. Because
No, I don't think so. I mean,
it is because...
As in the fictional Lost World, hope clashes with fact.
there's actually a lot of parallels from the Lost World book, where Challenger walks into a room with scientists and says, you guys have to believe me because I've seen this, and that's not how science works.
But in this enormous expanse, evidence could still lurk. The size of 15,000 football fields, Roraima can hide lots of secrets. One secret is about to be plucked, a clue to life on other planets. The last day in the lost world. The team ventures into Roraima's netherworld, seeking life unknown.
Looks like a fine day to go underground.
Yeah, perfect.
For one, it's a shot in the dark, a dinosaur hunt.
My mission for the day is to search for any evidence of life, be it fossil evidence of animals or pre-human existence. I've got my little thermal imaging device here, which is going to pick up on possibly any evidence of secret caverns. And if there's any life down here, this will pick it up. We'll also be using infrared.
Hayes and I have been in a little ways, and the cave is fairly complicated, so you don't want to go wandering off by yourself, or it might take us a few hours to find you.
So if you get lost in there, I think most of you brought a whistle with you. Just sit there, don't be moving around. The more you move around, the more lost you're going to get, the deeper you can go into the cave.
The stream's cut into an incised canyon here. We're gonna have to step over.
The cave is an architectural wonder, a series of chambers carved out by flash floods.
Wow, this is huge.
Oh my God.
Each the size of a concert hall. In this lifeless cavern, life at last.
There's a cricket in there underwater. Where? At the bottom of the pool.
No way, really?
Look at that, he's crawling along the bottom.
No way.
That thing's huge.
Where?
Right there.
Oh my God. I swear, I've seen millions of crickets. I've never seen one underwater before. They don't swim though, do they?
This one is.
No one has ever filmed this ancient species, and no one has ever seen it swim. It dives like a submarine by releasing pockets of air.
Oh, I've just come to another pond, and here's one of these aquatic. Ow, it bit me. Look at that. Look at the mandibles on that.
I've never seen anything like this before. Long sensory antenna on it. Huge, huge mandibles. Just like wire cutters. I mean, it's biting my leather glove. Fantastic spines on the legs. Probably preventing something from trying to grab it and eat it.
And no wonder. In this vast crypt, death waits.
I've been traveling through the cave all morning and coming across these giant orb webs. And when I say giant, this particular one is really nice. It's 3 feet across, and they're made by these tiny little orb spiders. And the only possible explanation I can think of for such a large web in these breezeways is that it has to be large to catch the very few flying insects that come through here. Amazing.
With so little food on Roraima, orb spiders conserve nutrition by recycling their webs. Then, the strangest sight of all.
So these are the carrots that
Stalactites form when water drips off limestone. Yet the cave is dry. So how did these grow?
there's some that are falling down there, and when you look at them end on, it looks like there's spider webs in the middle of them. And you can see all the spiders
I can see that.
around. There's at least 4 webs here.
Those are orb spiders.
Right now, billions of microorganisms are eating the quartz walls, leaving a fine silica dust that sticks to the webs. Over thousands of years, the dust takes this shape. In one of the most isolated places on Earth, Hazel has found a new building block of life. Microbes that live off glass. The cave may hold clues to the oldest life on Earth and survival in the harshness of outer space. The life Dean seeks eludes him.
Despite the tales from the Pomone shaman regarding large pterodactyls swooping off the summit of Roraima and sweeping up their children, on the surface there's just no evidence. Second best bet is down here in a subterranean cave system. We've been searching around for a little while now, but unfortunately, about the biggest critter we found is a cricket.
It's time to surface. The spirits are upset, and the team's in danger.
Oh, there's a big thunderstorm coming on. We have to head out quickly or the cave can get flooded.
The barometer's dropping, and there's a big storm coming. We have to leave before it rains really, really bad. And everybody was like, "Bah!" And then we got to the cave entrance, and it's thundering and lightning, and we're all dashing across as the rain comes down, and we're all relieved that we aren't now soaking wet.
It's truly a unique environment. I've never seen anything like this in a cave. We're in one of the most starved environments on Earth. There shouldn't be anything alive in there. And the whole cave is teeming with life, which is just absolutely spectacular. It's amazing that the original explorers, when they came here, were looking for dinosaurs. Dinosaurs really are here. They're just microscopic.
The journey to the lost world has fulfilled dreams, but not always the ones they imagined. In a starved cave, Peter and Hazel found new life. A discovery so stunning, even NASA is impressed. It could unravel secrets of life on other planets. Seth met creatures so rare, few have seen them. Rick uncovered species unique to Roraima. Dean found no living legends, but the legends he heard form a missing link, a bridge connecting fact with fiction.
Must get a photograph. No photographs, please.
Some of the great stories, like The Lost World and later King Kong, did not arise from a vacuum. These were based on real exploits of real men, explorers who had tremendous grit, tremendous determination, and a fantastic combination of scientific interest and a romantic imagination.
Just right down there on the hill, see there?
Yeah.
Roraima stands as a monument to curiosity. For those who know how to view the world, discoveries abound.
There are many worlds within worlds to be discovered today, worlds within our own DNA. Deep in caves, previously inaccessible places, we're finding life 7 miles under the Earth's surface. There are many lost worlds still to explore.
Rick is traveling to Mexico to search for rare spiders. Seth leads excursions into the Americas.